Hi there. My name is Adrian. I'm the founder of JavaScript Mastery. I created the JSM Masterclass Experience to help web developers launch and fast track their careers. We do this with real world team project building with modern tech stack and at the end of the day, hiring support. This is an interview with Santiago, Santi, a masterclass student. So welcome, Santi.
Thanks, Adrian.
Yeah, really glad to have you here. So, yeah, let's start off with your experience in general and anything you want to share, anything you'd like to kind of start with.
Yeah, of course. So, my background at all, even it's what I studied in university was not software engineering or computer science by any means. I actually studied public relations, sorry. But always kind
Okay.
of had this little knack and always really liked looking into coding, learning little things on my own. So, for of course, since around the time that the pandemic started, I kind of decided that now we have extra time. It's good to start
Yeah,
learning.
yeah.
So started learning, went to a boot camp myself. And, the nice thing with boot camps is that they get you up to speed pretty fast, but then they will sometimes leave like a little bit of a knowledge gap in how you take everything that you're doing in the boot camp and then actually applying it yourself into a real world, application, and how do you build on your own and actually make well structured decisions basically for your application, right? Something that when I first went into the job market after finishing the bootcamp, I kind of felt that I had, I was really sometimes struggling with making little basic decisions of like, oh, what does this actually need a framework? Will I actually need this type of library here? Can I just do it on my own? Like spending way more time that was actually necessary on little decisions like
Yeah, yeah.
that. And just kind of focusing on basically one thing, which was mostly backend development with Node.js at the time, and wasn't really overall feeling the that I was growing a lot in that situation. And then, it was kind of nice because it led me to like start to looking for options. Okay, how can I actually start to grow by myself? Because if I'm not finding the opportunity here, like it's something that I can definitely, like find to do on the weekends or when I have extra time at the end of the day, which led me to your YouTube channel.
Okay.
Started looking at the projects that were there.
Yeah.
Started to go through some of them, and shortly thereafter started to see the announcements for the masterclass, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of, it took me a few days to make the decision on it, but reading about it. But the more that I read about it, and actually right before I made the decision to go through it, I decided to go through one of the courses, particularly the Film Fire course, just to get a feel for building everything exactly how what the teaching style might be and
Yeah, yeah.
everything. I was very happy. Very happy. So then I just made the decision that this is probably the best way to go, because everything was thoroughly explained, and technologies that were being used, and why like why there wasn't a need to actually build a whole database for it, but rather just use the API, and everything was really well explained. Why you would make certain decisions when building the application that would make sense, and that is exactly what I felt that I needed at that point.
Perfect. Yeah, that's phenomenal. So you touched on a lot of points there. Had an IT job before
Yep.
joining. You were a bootcamp graduate, and then you
Hmm.
decided to join the masterclass. So uh, that's interesting. Would you mind expanding on the point of the fact that you graduated one bootcamp and then decided to join the masterclass? What I got from a lot of kind of experiences from different students
Hmm.
and bootcamp graduates is that after finishing it, they're still feeling overwhelmed and they're not feeling independent enough to start coding apps on their own. So, yeah, would you mind expanding on your experience a bit?
Yeah, of course. So, for example, the boot camp that I attended, we had to basically, kind of in a similar fashion that you'll have in the masterclass when you join the 6 months um, masterclass. Basically, you'll have like a capstone project. It was a similar thing in the boot camp, except that the boot camp was only 12 weeks. So then the capstone was basically like the last 3-4 weeks
Yep.
of the boot camp. At which point you had to, like, for example, I had decided to build what was a dog adoption application,
Yep.
right? And the idea would be that, okay, people or veterinarians or shelters that have dogs can upload the dog that they currently have, right? That let's say that they want to give a dog up for adoption or something like that, or they have a dog up for adoption. And then, users could log into the application, come in, and then just basically decide whether to either, of course, that users should never be able to just directly adopt a dog, but it was more of like you book an appointment date to go see the dog and things like this. And then it was using the Mern stack.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, of course, in 4 weeks, after just having learned the basics of all of that for 8 weeks, there was a lot of questions. And then, of course, it's what it's in practice. When you talk about it like that, you might think like, oh yeah, I can definitely build that application after what I've built, on my own. But there is this knowledge gap all of a sudden that you find of like, I have no idea like how I might go about building this. And then sometimes the boot camps at that point, they're kind of in the end of basically your let's say your 12 weeks. So then they'll be a little bit focused and then providing you just some basic feedback, but then they're also focused on the, like the everything that is upcoming. So you kind of, like as we say in Spanish sometimes, like they let go of your hand a little
Yeah.
bit,
Yeah. Yeah.
and you start to be a little bit on your own, which is a good thing because it allows you the chance to experience. But I think that at that point you're not ready enough to really understand everything that you're reading, and you end up in that point just feeling overwhelmed of like, well, I just went with this because it was working,
Yeah.
but it's not necessarily the best decision that you can take. So definitely had that feeling, especially when first started the first IT job as well. Like one of the first things that they tasked me with doing was basically it was just about rendering, with handlebars, just something that was already inside the Express server that we were doing,
Okay.
which shouldn't have sounded as daunting as it was, right? Because it was just like, oh, okay, like a little bit of reading of documentation, I can go and find out and do it. And this is something that, like a lot of times is missing in the bootcamp is like, okay, this is how you might go through reading the documentation to be able to build this on your own afterwards. So kind of like that decision of like something that was very little to do became into like this daunting project of like, oh, but do we really need to do it this way? What about if we use this instead? And it was more so of the fear of having to make that decision on my own and then just kind of like not going through with it properly, right? Because I didn't know it, and I didn't want to come out of the comfort zone that the boot camp puts you in of like, I know how to use the Mern stack and that's everything that I know how to do, but it doesn't challenge you to look outside of that basically, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what I felt there, that it was like it was a time where I couldn't understand why would I want to do it outside of the stack that I just learned. Like, what's the point if this works perfectly?
Gotcha. Yeah, I completely understand. So now having graduated that boot camp, 12-week boot camp, and having joined the masterclass, now you're at the end of it, and you already got a different job. You're working on a couple of different projects, which we can dive into really soon.
Mhm.
How would you say that your problems that you all mentioned right now, not feeling independent enough, not being able to do some things, feeling daunted when you have to start and even smaller projects, would you say that the masterclass helped you with that, and how
Yes.
much?
Yeah, definitely. So first of all, like in a way, you are challenged to look at what might be the actual best solution for the particular project that you have. And the nice thing that I have is that not only when you're first assigned the project is it like, okay, here's a project, this is what you have to do, but you're also given like you could, like the different options. Maybe you want to like, maybe you'd like to try Next.js and Tailwind, and you can do it just with, using Redux Toolkit and the API without a database. Or maybe you'd actually like to build, a React application with the new React router, but
Yep.
you want to use like a new database instead of Mongo. You'd like to try Supabase or something, for example. Like it's the options are given to you from the very beginning, which I really like because it really helps you to think of, okay, there are a lot of different ways that I could actually build the project, but what actually will make sense for this particular app? And one of the things that I like the most at the beginning of the projects in the masterclass is the ability to sit with the mentors and just kind of discuss like, hey, like, you'll see it a lot in the team sometimes where people really feel comfortable with one technology, but the mentors might say like, actually, it is a really good technology, but like it's a little bit of overkill for this
Yeah,
project. Let's
yeah.
focus on something simpler,
And you
right?
yourself a huge fan of Superbase, which you ended up
Yeah,
using in a couple of different projects. So it just shows you how
yeah,
flexible it is. Some people use
correct.
MERN, some people use Next.js's API endpoints, some people
Hmm.
hold different APIs, and you decided to use Superbase.
And that was just, something that I started actually using while I was going through the masterclass itself. I think like at the very beginning of the first project, I was kind of finishing also on the side, like my first experience using a Supabase database for a project. And I started just absolutely loving it for everything that it brought. So it gave me the confidence to actually like start suggesting it. I'd already gotten used to just working with SQL databases and even Mongo on my own on the side, but then started to see what everything that Superbase could bring. So like when people were talking and with my teammates, we're kind of discussing what might be the best options for a project. They were like looking at maybe authentication or things like that, and I was like, I mean, one of the nice things about the masterclass is that it will allow you to pick the technologies, but that's also, I think, a very good thing because it allows you to stay up to date with the current technologies, right? Allows you to work with what is the future of web development, basically, and start practicing and honing those skills early on in an environment where you have people to guide you through it.
Yeah, from building that kind of simple capstone project in your previous bootcamp, uh, now you built a 3-month long capstone project throughout the masterclass. And I just wanted to take over a bit and share my screen and just show everybody what you and 2 other developers in your team have built.
Yeah.
So let me quickly share it right here. There we go. So this is the design right here that you will be given while working through the Capstone project. And Santi was given this design as well. And it looks something like this. I mean, it is a full-fledged booking application where you can book hotels, flights, car rental, and everything. And I mean, just by looking at this design, it is huge. It has flight booking, it has car booking as well, profile pages, the entire dashboard, and all the settings, everything that you see in a full-fledged, full-stack application. Everything from notifications, terms and conditions, additional pages. It is huge, right? How did you felt
Yeah.
when you first saw it, Santi?
Oh, I mean, we'd gotten so for the previous projects, we'd gotten the design idea inspiration as well from Figma files like this, but definitely this was my first experience. We're getting, kind of in the professional way of like, you're getting the full design for absolutely everything and the flow of how you'd like, everything to be, from even the login to login errors to what the modal should be to what we're showing on the navigation bar when you're logged in, to just the whole deal basically,
Yeah,
which
yeah,
is incredible because a lot of the times when you're doing this on your own, it's really hard to like come up with a design idea. You're like, oh, I've seen this maybe somewhere and it looked really cool, so I'd like to try to replicate it, but then you end up with like a Frankenstein project, right? Where
yeah,
you put
yeah.
a lot of things together from different places. But having this where like it's consistent and you have like a color palette, you have the fonts given to you and everything from the beginning, and you know exactly what you're working from. This is like the perfect type of experience that you're looking for, because this, when you're moving up into more and more development, this is how it's going to start to be.
Yeah, and I like how you mentioned that Frankenstein project, and I want to show people now this is how it should look like by the design, right? And I want to show
Yeah.
people what the actual finished deployed website looks like.
Yeah.
It is this, right? So it follows the design almost perfectly. It is connected with an API, so you can literally pick locations, you can search different places, you can see bookings, and everything is being live fetched from the API, which is phenomenal. So as you can see, this is a full application. You even have the dark mode. You can change the currency, the language. You can log in. It is fully connected with Google Auth. So just overall a phenomenal application. And this is the whole point of the masterclass at the end of the day, to
Yeah.
give you something to build that you can showcase to people and employers and other potential kind of freelance clients will look at this and say, hey, this is really extraordinary, right? Because not a lot of people take the time or have the skills to build something like this. And if they do, they get stuck. So this is a huge, jumping pad to get you into the industry.
Yep.
Perfect. Really, really happy with this. Again, Santi has built this with 2 other developers throughout the period of 3 months, which is phenomenal. Really happy about that. You joined about 6 months ago. You
Mhm.
graduated the bootcamp before. I feel like you're feeling much more independent right now as a developer, and that showed across a couple of different freelance or hobby projects you were doing on the side while
Mhm.
attending the masterclass. So you're a huge fan of football or soccer here for
Yeah,
the US people. Um, you are part of a soccer team, right?
correct.
You
Yeah, I'm
went ahead and
originally
built.
from
Yeah, go ahead.
Argentina, so it's kind of like our big passion.
Yeah, and you went ahead and built a website for your soccer team, right?
Correct. Yeah.
It went through a couple of iterations. I don't have the link right now to show it, but Santiago showed me and wanted to get feedback on his original site that he was building on his own while he joined about 6 months ago. And then based on feedback and everything all the skills that he got, he just recently showed me an improved site that is a complete revamp. And I just got to say, it's a whole different world, right? So that one side, as well as the capstone, showcase your improvement in the past 6 months, and I'm really happy about that.
Yeah,
Also,
yeah, for
go ahead.
definitely. Sorry, I was gonna say definitely like the just being the fact that I was just able to write you and ask you the questions about it, like not really being sure how to maybe, look at something in what might be, for example, like best CMS to use and things like that, just based on the need that I had for that particular project. And being able to show you that Frankenstein monster that I call that I
Yeah.
had, and then just to get your input on it, and just for you to just really help me to break it down into simpler terms and see like, okay, you basically only need like 4 of the things that you have here. You don't need the rest of it, and you can build. Like, that was incredible because it really started to help me thinking and like, okay, abstracting what is it that you actually can do on your own. How much do you actually need to bring in from, outside dependencies, sorry, to do this.
Yeah. I'm really happy you said that. And yeah, again, throughout the masterclass or throughout YouTube channel, I'm glad I can help hundreds of thousands of people that watch YouTube videos. But throughout the masterclass, I'm incredibly happy I can do what I'm doing with you right now, and that is to jump on a call and talk one-on-one and really help you accelerate your growth. Great. With that said, there was one incredibly interesting, not a hobby project, but rather a huge freelance project that came your way, right?
Yeah.
So your friend reached out to you. So would you mind kind of letting us
Yeah.
a bit more about that story?
Yeah, of course. So, one of my friends, yeah, works for basically a marketing company that handles a lot of, you know, worldwide marketing for Adidas. And this with the World Cup coming up is a big year for them. So about actually 2.5 weeks before the World Cup, they were kind of discussing last minute ideas for what they could do for activation, for Adidas and things like this. So they came up with this idea to have a basically scrolling wall of images that they can keep running at all times, which will have a QR code on the wall itself that people can just go and scan with their phones, take a picture, and immediately upload it, and basically show the most recently uploaded pictures, images in the wall, but also continue to cycle through all the images that exist in the database, right? So she came to me with this idea, asked if it was possible to do within the time frame before the World Cup started, and like, I was confident enough to definitely say like, yes, like this is just the basic things that your project is going to need. It's definitely doable in this time frame. But of course, it was something that I'd never done myself. Some of those ideas of like the scrolling wall and
Yeah.
changing that was a little bit of like, okay, I can see how it would work, but I've never actually done it myself. So I'm definitely gonna like bring people in that might have more experience with this, which is actually when I reached out to you about that.
Yeah. So that's, I mean, that's huge. So working on a project for Adidas for World Cup that's going to be live in there in the
Yep.
Adidas building in 2 weeks, right? So
Hmm.
you then reached out to us because this is a bigger project. And then myself and one other mentor in the masterclass, with Santiago included as a part of the core team for building that project, went ahead and built that project for Adidas. And it's phenomenal. It's now delivered. It's been live in Qatar for a couple of weeks now, throughout the entire
Hmm.
period of the World Cup. And
Yeah.
it just shows you how, when you're in the development field, when you're learning, and when you're part of masterclass as well, how how huge projects you can deliver, and you can actually get immediate help from mentors on, right?
Yeah,
So
likewise. It was a great experience, like just working side by side with you and with the other mentor, and just kind of seeing as well like how the process goes from planification of the project to scoping it out to what is actually going to be needed, and then to providing the necessary design and getting everything approved and then starting the work. Like that was a quick masterclass in itself because it all had to happen within 2 weeks. Right.
yeah,
So then the speed at which everything was done, and then, just kind of focusing on what the important aspects were going to be to get started right away, being able to see that and learn from that as well was just that. I think that that's just as valuable as the like being able to contribute and collaborate on the code with you.
that's phenomenal. So you would say that the mentors were incredibly influential throughout your duration of the masterclass. What would you say about the mentors here?
Oh, I mean, of course, at the very beginning, I think it kind of starts with anything. Like everybody's just kind of like very relaxed. You're not really sure. Like you don't really know the mentors or anything like that. But one thing I can definitely say, like 6 months in, is like very easy going, very easy to talk to, very available for any questions that you're gonna have, like any doubts, any like just ideas that you might have for a project or something that they might think is actually good, but also like being available to guide you through it. Like you might have a good idea that is really really cool, but then they're really good about like saying, yeah, that does sound cool, but let's focus on finishing this aspect that that we're looking at now, and then if we have time we can implement that, because the idea is on getting you to really know the understand that how you should build your application, what is important to focus on at the time being, and how you should structure your project. So that is something that they've definitely really really helped in doing with me. Like it's very, I wouldn't say like it's very, very easy, of course, but it's just the experience that I've had here. It made it so much more simpler now that whenever a project arrives for me to think like, okay, I can, yeah, if we structure it like this and we break it down, we can definitely have like a V1 of this that just will do the main parts that you need available by this time frame. So the availability for them to jump into calls with you or even just answer messages directly on the Discord server, everything like that's been incredible. But also the fact of like so easygoing and just so like a couple of months in, you really just feel like you're talking to people you've known for a really long time. Just kind of having like a nice relationship. Like we've had those times in the Discord servers where we've all just played like games online, and
Yeah, yeah.
it's really nice because when you're going through the masterclass, not everybody, will be able to dedicate to it full time. Some people have jobs while they're going through to the masterclass. And I think one of the most important things that I've learned being here is like, while learning to code and everything is important, a lot of the times the knowledge is already there. What you need is those 20 minutes that completely relax you and make your mind go somewhere completely else, and then when you come back it's like, oh, the solution was always there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And that's something that I have seen that is really well taught here as well.
Perfect. Really, really happy to hear that, and that you said that kind of you got to know the mentors on a
Yeah.
personal level. I know that some boot camps, most boot camps have tens, if not hundreds of different mentors, right? They're much bigger. We here are still quite small. It's and you all of the core members of the JSM from YouTube and all the projects you see, that's all being done by myself, Sujata, and Mateo. And both of these mentors, alongside myself, are all there for every single person in the
Mhm.
masterclass. So I think you felt that, Santiago, and that's why
Yeah.
we can get to know each other on a personal level.
Yeah, 100%. It just shows like when I was just able to write to you about the personal project that I had or the freelance project that I got, that that goes in hand perfectly with what you just said, like personally available, and like the response time is incredible. In boot camp sometimes like mentors will be like, I only work on a Friday, for example, so then you might have a question or a doubt on a Tuesday or a Wednesday, but you're not going to get an answer until Friday. But here it's not that way. Like you write them a message and you're going to immediately get an answer.
That's wonderful. I'm really happy that we were able to help you in such a way. So yeah, how would you say this experience changed you as a person or as a developer in general?
As a person, I think like it's definitely changed me, and probably understanding of being a bit more empathetic towards the software development process, but also like
Okay.
everything that goes behind it.
Yeah, yeah,
Like at the very beginning, when you first start, like I might have looked at other code or something like that, and might have just felt like, oh, that's wrong for this reason or that's wrong for that for another reason, without actually like being able to think, extrapolate into like, okay, everybody has their own way
yeah,
of like thinking, structuring, problem solving. So like actually thinking about it in a completely different manner of like, actually that might be a really good idea, something I can apply in the future, right? So definitely as a person, it's kind of helped me in looking at that, different things in that sense of like every solution could possibly be a good solution if you just kind of look at it and think about it. But like there, it shouldn't just be shut down because of being shut down, right? Like that, I think that's one of the nice things that it taught me is like at least you can kind of go through and listen and see like if it might be a good idea, because what might not work for one project will work for another one. And
yeah,
as a developer, definitely in the confidence of developing web applications from scratch. Like when I first came in, I had, I would say, zero to none front end development experience, like other than the everything that you do in the boot camp, but like there is a gap in that sense.
yeah,
So having been able to come through, and then the first project was already like a challenge of like, here's the design. Um kind of have to base it off this is the Spotify clone the lyrics app
yeah,
project, which was like kind of first time that I had a full-fledged project like that, that it was like, here's the design, this is everything that it should do. And it was really kind of like, oh, wow, like, really starting on this. But then like, it was a process that really helped me to break down and start to see how the front end development front end development world works. Um, Given the experience that I already had in the like building in Node.js and everything. So I think it's definitely made me a lot more confident in like when I look at a project, what is actually possible. First of all, because a lot of times sometimes people might have this idea of like what they'd like to do with a web app or something, and you just go like, I don't know if that will be possible, but we can get something close to it, but it will have to be in this way, right? So I think in abstracting and thinking of what people are saying to you, the idea that they have, and how would it look in actual code, and how you can deliver it and when you can deliver it by, it's definitely helped me there. Also feeling much more confident in the code that I'm writing, and kind of realizing, okay, this is my coding style, this is what I feel comfortable with. But then I feel very confident in the, if I have to break out of that zone, like I know that I can now, right? Because I know where it is that I have to research. I know that if I get stuck somewhere, what sort of question I should be asking. Like it's made me just really cut down on when I have to develop something.
yeah.
In the past, it might have taken me 2 or 3 times as long as as it does now. So it's really helped me in that sense, and also just kind of being, I would say, more confident in
Yeah.
like, okay, like this is definitely what I'm gonna do as a living now. And I've made up my mind in that, and I don't want to change that.
Okay, that's perfect. So you even found kind of even more love for it, right? You found it to
Oh
be
yeah.
something you
Yeah.
want to do, and you from what you said right now, I think you grew that engineering mindset, which is what we try to do, kind of that software
Yeah.
engineering, how to think about something, how to think about problems, how to approach
Mhm.
them, how to find the best ways of
Yeah.
solving them, right? I think that is
Yeah.
incredibly beneficial for developing both front end, back and full stack. It is just a general skill that you want to have in your life,
Yep.
right? Perfect. And also, I think that's one thing. So I would say there are three things. The first one is that engineering mindset, right? Being able to approach problems. The second
Mhm.
one that you mentioned is how to get that entire development cycle, right? From the idea to development, and then to publishing and to deployment.
Yep.
Also, finally, the skills to have to actually being able to develop this. And then also there's that social aspect, being able to speak
Yeah.
with people and being able to let them know what they need, and to prescribe, right? To not just get info from them and say, if they
Yeah.
say, hey, I need a website, right? You are going to tell them what they actually need to solve their problem. That's the whole goal.
Correct.
So yeah, really, really happy with everything. And yeah, is there are there any kind of final notes, anything final you want to say to people, to anyone watching this?
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's definitely, I can understand at the very beginning when you're looking through, and especially if you've already had a boot camp experience, it can be a little bit daunting because you're not really sure exactly what you're jumping into. But I think that um the experience that I had, at least, like having to go, I sorry, not having to go, but looking through the YouTube projects and then doing one of the NFT marketplace or the Filmpire projects before starting, that like drilled it in for me. So the one thing that I can say, like, is definitely a boot camp that I haven't even seen that exists like this elsewhere. The masterclass, in the sense of like the support that you get from the mentors, the thing that you're going to be building, the technology that you'll be able to work with, and then like the support for your side projects and everything as well. And what like the end result of all of that after 6 months is huge. Like I see the difference in myself and the code that I write. Like I've gone through my GitHub repository and really cleaned it up after some of the
Mhm.
webinars that we've had in the masterclass and everything. Really cleaned it up. I've looked at some of the old repositories that were there that I was just like, there's no reason that I should even be showing this code anymore, because this is
Yeah.
not how I code at all. I really need to like either keep this as a private repository or just completely get rid of it, because it might send the wrong idea about my my skill set, things like this. So really, one thing that I can say for sure is your projects are going to improve a lot more. Your mindset is going to improve a lot more as a developer, and you're just overall really, really going to enjoy it. And at the end of the 6 months, you're really going to see the difference, and you're going to be in a much better place to feel confident when you're going in for job interviews. I mean, just from the cohort that I participated in, I've already seen people, towards the end now, they're already saying that they've got their first jobs in IT. They're, that they have an interview for next week, things like that, that they're preparing for. And it's great, because also in that manner, like I see that the mentors are really, really available, and like, hey, if you need to help preparing anything, like we're here for you as well. So I'd say
Wonderful.
definitely take the leap
Yeah.
and you're not going to regret it.
Perfect. That's great. I'm really happy you had that experience, and yeah, I wish to get that experience to many more people that are gonna join in the future. So yeah, if you're one of those people, and if you liked what Santi shared with you today, and if you want to join the next cohort, the link is going to be down in the description of this video. Thank you so much for watching this video. Have a great one.